out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
Welcome to paragraph 2, subsection 1.08 of 1979-80 Revisited, all part of the Your Boys Took a Hell of a Beating lexicon. First division, we've had a look at the second division and how things are shaping up from the Luton QPR game at Kenilworth Road that offered a great deal of entertainment, at least in edited form. Brian Moore busy telling us that huge swathes of the game were not fit for consumption, basically. We've got 3 First Division games to take a glance at in varying degrees of time spent on the highlights that are available to us. We have the Manchester derby at Main Road. Dave, I remember kind of like a lot of complaints about Liverpool being on the TV all the time, but this is Manchester City 3 weeks running.
I suppose it's light entertainment, given the misadventures of Malcolm Allison. I suppose that's what it is, and perhaps the nation did understand the grip of Romark at this point, and it's just something that we've collectively been hypnotised to forget since. But perhaps that was it. Perhaps it was all over the front pages at the time.
Absolutely, it's got to have been the handiwork of Romark, hasn't it? He's not just put a curse on Malcolm Allison; he wants the nation to see it unfold. Fair play, Romark, but Romark doesn't get his way in this one, Dave. It's Manchester City's day.
I mean, after all the hilarity that Manchester City have provided for us over the last couple of weeks, particularly in that game against Liverpool when they were unbelievably horrendous. I mean, perhaps Malcolm Allison has finally got him on the training pitch, or perhaps it's just the nature of the local derby, the Manchester derby. But I mean, they look a completely different team. They've got the advantage of having Dana back in the side.
That's a big difference.
He's moved into midfield. Willie Donachie's back at left back, so they look a bit more balanced and a bit more secure, a bit more compact, I think. So, perhaps that's played a big part in it. But this is unrecognisable Manchester City from the one that was absolutely thrashed into the ground by Liverpool just 2 or 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah, it's very much Jekyll and Hyde, isn't it? Even Steve Daly puts in a shift in this one, to a varying degree, maybe, but he doesn't disgrace himself on this occasion.
No. Although there is one glorious moment when he's caught late by Martin Buchanan while he's lying on the ground. Willie Donachie bladders the ball against his Brown teammate. It kind of sums up Steve Daly's first 6 weeks in Manchester, really.
That is very much a very telling moment. It is a very telling moment. The first half of this game is it's just very much kind of like proper derby fodder, isn't it? In all told and done, there's not many chances. There's plenty of blood and thunder. There's plenty of interest to hold the interest, but there's not many clear cut chances.
No, it's played on a pitch, as John Watson tells us, it's been raining non-stop in Manchester for 2 days. Although we haven't yet watched a game where it's been raining during the game, I don't think, as far as I can remember, all the way through the season. But it's a saturated pitch and there's some nice sliding about at various moments in the game. But as you say, it's proper 100 miles an hour, local derby, all action, not a great deal of quality, but plenty to keep you going. Plenty of nice fouls and tackles and blood and thunder stuff, but not what they would call one for the purists.
No, not at all. I mean, if Liverpool are sending kind of like scouts out to watch Manchester United in this one to see, just how real a deal or not, as the case may be, they've nothing to. They're returning down the East Lancs Road with a degree of nothing to be worried about at this point in time. Although, Manchester United start this game top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very ordinary performance from Manchester United. I mean, as I say, all action, but there's no real quality. John Watson points to the point-sized pairing up front of Koppel and Macari, which I don't think that's got a great deal of legs in it. Well, quite literally, hasn't got a great deal of legs in it. But I don't think it's got much future in it either. No, they don't against a team like City who've had such a bad run, you'd think they'd be there for the taking, but I think United get sucked into the whole derby thing, and there's no studied football, is there? I mean, Ray Wilkins, for instance, doesn't get on the ball a fat lot. He doesn't get the chance to play too many passes around. It's just the traditional end-to-end sort of, which is always ended then in a crunching tackle about 35 yards from goal.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, a paucity of clear-cut chances. But, in many respects, this is the perfect game for Manchester City. We've seen them lose at Crystal Palace the previous week. That shocker of a performance against Liverpool at Main Road, the week before that. But like you say, Jekyll and Hyde. This is a more determined. I mean, nothing's going to focus Manchester City at this point in time. Under the cosh, defence frailty, all sorts of problems. People are questioning kind of like the money spent on not only Steve Daly but Michael Robinson as well. If City can't lift themselves and focus themselves and get themselves up for this game, then there's no game that's going to have them at it, is there?
No, absolutely. I mean, when you do get to your local derby, it's not about playing; it's about competing. What they do manage to do in this game is compete. They are chasing everything down. They are making the tackles. They are running after everything. And as I say, having Dana back in the side and having Willie Donachie back in there that moves power back into the midfield more. I mean, it just looks a better balanced team. But it's a team that plays with a bit of heart more than anything else. It's not one that's perhaps been blinded by Malcolm Allison's science. It's one that just goes out there to compete for every ball and close down every player and win every tackle. And the box standard first division requirements of the time, and they can do that perfectly well. And then when they do that, then they've got the ability of Dana in particular to spray the ball around a bit in the midfield. So it actually, as you say, this is the perfect game for them. It's one that sort of concentrates the mind, isn't it?
It really does. But it's the second half, really, isn't it? That livens up, I think, in this one. Goalless at half time, and rightly so. You'd have to say for over 50,000 spectators as well into Main Road. Tony Henry makes a hero of himself, in this one, with Mike Robinson also playing particularly well.
Yeah, I mean the first goal comes from Dana sort of skipping into the box, and then there's a sliding tackle. I'm not quite sure who it's from. The ball sort of screws away into the path of Tony Henry, and needs no second bidding, as they used to say in commentary, to absolutely club it past Gary Bailey, gloves and all. Gary Bailey in his gloves.
Yeah. I did notice this. Gary Bailey very much. There is, it's a moist ball, Dave.
It is absolutely wet conditions. Although looking at the gloves that he's got on, I don't know how they're supposed to help, quite frankly. I mean, they're not goalkeeping gloves as anybody who watches football nowadays would recognise. Goalkeeping gloves, they're something entirely different. Probably what he perhaps does the gardening on a Sunday morning or something. But,
very very much a gardening kind of element to this.
Not that it matters. He doesn't get his hands anywhere near Tony Henry's shot anyway, so he just flies past him, and that's 1-0. And then, as you say, there's a lovely dummy from Michael Robinson a couple of minutes later, and Dave Bennett has a shot. To be fair to Bailey, he does initially save it, and then obviously those gloves not doing the job, spills the ball before it's finally scrambled clear. But it's suddenly all Manchester City. In this early part of the second half, they're really on top, and that, amazingly. And I never really understand this in football. A team that can be playing so incredibly badly scores a goal, and all of a sudden they've got all the confidence in the world, and they're playing like they've been top of the league for months. I mean, it is all Manchester City from there, and United haven't really got any answer to it.
It is a peculiarity, and Manchester United top of the table going into this game, as we said. We touched on the fact that there's again two sides of this Manchester United coin. 7 games at home, 7 wins, 13 goals scored, only 1 conceded away from home. Within the wake of this is Manchester United's 3rd defeat of the season, all on the travels. Of the other 5 games they've played away from home, they've only won 1 of them, drawn 4. They've managed to score 6, conceded 9. So only 7. So they're quite frugal at the back still on the road. But there's a tentative nature to Manchester United on the road, shaping up clearly. One of those points they took on the road was on the opening day at Southampton as well. Man City themselves, they've only, this is their 5th win on home out of 8. The bizarrity is it's you look at it and think there's 2 sides to the coin of both of these sides. Yet the one that we've spoken about so many times so far, and Malcolm Allison's travails at Main Road. We don't touch on Manchester United's quite as much as because that's quite a polarising difference between home and away for Manchester United. Whereas City's form, at least at home, is kind of like holding out for them. Obviously, the 4-0 drubbing at the hands of Liverpool side there, but but apart from that, absolute masterclass, anti-masterclass, shall we say, in defending. They've only lost 1 other game at Main Road.
It is funny, isn't it? Because if you are going to win the league, you've got to have a decent away record. You can't just they say that you build it on your home form, which I suppose is true, but you've got to be able to do plenty away from home to make the difference in the end. I think this was an era as well where home advantage was bigger than it is now, probably. I mean, now so much football is, as we must say, played on the transition. It's all about counter-attacking, as we used to call it. Back then, you weren't allowed to do that at home. Crowds would not allow you to be sitting back and soaking it up and then hitting teams on the break. They weren't having any of that. It was a constant, attack that the home fans wanted. So I mean, by and large, as a home team, you were just forced to spend most of your life in the opposition half of the field, and again, by and large, that tended to mean that you won a lot of games, or certainly drew a lot of games, because teams weren't built on that counter-attack foundation the way that they are now so often. So I think home advantage was a bigger thing at that point than it probably is now. And again, you look at that Manchester City team, and perhaps they've been unfortunate that we've seen them on television at their particular worst. I don't know. I mean, God, they couldn't have got any worse than the game against Liverpool. But I mean, they have got good players in that team.
They've got a fine side, yeah. So, a really good side there.
I mean, as I said, with Dana missing a couple of the games that we've seen, and Donachie coming back, it's a better balance to the team, and they're not quite so reliant on youth. And Steve Daly in this game, he's playing a bit deeper. So I mean, there's been a little bit of a change there, and he looks. Although I always remember him at Wolves playing, further up the pitch, he actually looks better for it in this game. Although there is one glorious moment where he's running towards his own goal and manages to get caught in possession, and walks away from it shaking his head like a man who wants the ground to open up and swallow it and think, "Oh God, please take me back to glorious Wolverhampton." Which, let me tell you, if anybody's thinking that, they've made some poor choices. But they just look a better set up team, and as we've said, I think probably just the demands of the derby. You've got to compete. You can't lie down in the derby. Perhaps that's done them a favour. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just to back up, that split between playing away and playing at home in this era. We say Manchester United have won just 1 of their games away from home, but we're now kind of like on the cusp of mid-November, and you've got. And I'll do this a little bit of a quiz, I think, Dave. 3 teams have yet to pick up a win on their travels in the league in the First Division. Hazard a guess at those 3 teams?
Probably Albion, the way that we used to play.
Well, absolutely. West Brom. Although you've won 5 on at home and you've only lost once at the Hawthorns. Again, there's that polarising juxtaposition. But yeah, you've got two more.
Have Manchester City won away from home?
Manchester City have picked up 1 win away from home.
You'll have to give me the other 2.
Bolton and Brighton.
Bolton and Brighton, of course.
21st and 22nd in the First Division at the end of this particular weekend. City deserved winners in this, aren't they, Dave?
Absolutely so, yeah.
They are very much. They've had a rough ride, but they've finally got something to kind of like celebrate, and a deserved victory. setback for Manchester United, but it's the classic form book as well. They can cling to that at the very least and say, well, it's the derby and anything can happen no matter where teams are. But yeah, Liverpool now just a point behind with a game in hand. There'll be a few twitches going on at Dave Sexton and his coaches and around the dressing room.
I would think so. I mean, the worst of it from a United perspective, I mean, on the highlights, I think Joe Corrigan makes one save, really. I mean, there's Mickey Thomas in the second half and really doesn't have a huge amount else to do. I think there's one that hits the post from Steve Coppell in the first half as well. But really, there's no great alarms, and then City make it 2-0. And Michael Robinson gets the ball in the edge of the box and curls this thing all the way along the ground, just around Gary Bailey's gloved hand and inside the post for 2-0. And that's the end of the show, folks. That's it.
It is. It's a glorious, glorious goal. And that familiar Michael Robinson celebration. The knees are up, he's pumping, the fists are going. There's a kind of perpetual motion type of celebration that a lot of teams that Michael Robinson will have played and scored for, that'll be very, very kind of very, very familiar. Moving south, we're back in Hampshire, Dave. It's back to the Dell. BBC Match of the Day cameras have been there twice already. And on this occasion, it's Southern TV with David Bobin at the microphone. Forest, they're top in the early weeks, the first month or two of the season. Starting to, I mean, they're still, even after today's defeat, they're only a point behind Manchester United. But yeah, there's something just slightly out of gear about Forest. There's certainly away from home, despite the fact they have picked up a couple of wins, but they're just looking like the slightly left wanting if they're playing a quality team away from home.
They played in midweek, haven't they, in Europe? And they look like they didn't get back until the early hours of Friday morning after a 36-hour journey across Soviet Union or something. I mean, they're a mess for a team that is always so well organised and so well drilled. They're absolutely all over the place in this game against Southampton. Southampton play really, really well, getting away from that. But Forest are all over the place. They're never in the game at all at any stage. And this could have been a real... I mean, it's bad enough by the time it gets to the finish, but this could have been an absolute thumping of epic dimensions. This could have been a 7 or an 8 in the finish. They're nowhere in the game at all.
No, not at all. Southampton are in one of those inspired home moods, which they were in parts against Leeds, only for the game to kind of go against the fates conspired against. Nick Holmes again, such an underrated player. I always associate him to this era, despite all the players that came in, all the former England captains that Laurie McMahon seemed to learn to enjoy signing. Nick Holmes, was a player that this team revolved around. It's his cross, it's Dave Watson with this thudding finish, and Peter Shilton left exposed once again. They're relentless on the wings, Southampton, and they've got aerial power. All over the place. Your central defenders can come up and add to that, but you've got Mick Shannon in there. You've got, Boyer who's scoring goals for fun. This has to be, I'll have said it before, but a great time to be watching football at the Dell.
Absolutely, it does, and you can see what a good side is really coming together now. They look like they're going to be the sort of side that perhaps hasn't got the consistency to go and win the league, but they're going to entertain everybody. They're going to be top 6. They're going to perhaps qualify for Europe, have a good cup run, that kind of thing. They're going to be entertaining to watch, always good fun. And Forest have got absolutely no answer to them. I mean, even Peter Shilton, who at that point is in still in pretty decent form, not quite the imperious 1977-78 Peter Shilton, but still nonetheless. Even Peter Shilton has a bit of a nightmare in this game. So they've just been bombarded into submission, really, by Southampton. Viv Anderson in England fullback and Frank Gray, Scottish international on the other side. They've got no answer to Southampton pouring forward. And then even Kenny Burns can't get hold of enough people to kick during the course of the afternoon. So everything's gone wrong for Forest in this one.
It really has, even to the point that Larry Lloyd almost scores an own goal. A very impressive own goal it would have been as well. Catching Shilton out, I think it was his near post. Steve Williams.
Over the match, I think.
It is. I think it's very much. It's the only one he really gets to, isn't it? Steve Williams is excellent in this game as well. He's another midfielder you think falls under the radar because of so much talent of the era. Another understated midfielder. He's everywhere. We talk about the total football of Liverpool. Southampton at home do something similar. Very difficult for them away, and without a shadow of a doubt. But this is a team that can beat absolutely. They're beating the European, not just beating the European champions here. They are dismantling them, and Steve Williams, like Nick Holmes, is pivotal to this performance.
There was a lot of talk about Steve Williams at this kind of point. I bet he was going to go on and be an England mainstay, wasn't it, through the 80s and that kind of stuff, which never quite happened. One or two injuries and whatnot, I think, sort of derailed him. But I mean, all over the pitch, Southampton have got players that are just. I mean, Graham Baker, another one who's sort of largely forgotten in midfield. He's just opening Forest up at will, and he's the one that sort of sets in motion the second goal. He has an effort sort of spinning wide that Peter Shilton goes scrambling for on the ground, gets to it, and then drops it obligingly at the feet of Mick Shannon, who forces it in from. And we've spoken about Michael Robinson's celebration. Well, this is the classic whirling arm.
The windmilling arm. Yeah,
it's a glorious thing to watch. It's one of the
and that's it. Steve Archibald would do a similar type of celebration, and it was the type of celebration that it could only be done by a player wearing long sleeve shirt as well. That's pulled down, over the wrists and all that type of stuff. Yeah, certain terms and conditions to that type of celebration. Mick Shannon was allowed. Steve Archibald was allowed. No one else could do it. Maybe Peter With once in a while, if only if he was wearing wristband.
It's one only of the indelible images of that era is the Mick Shannon celebration.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. But yeah, Forest, absolute defensive disarray for both of those goals. And into the second half, Forest do kind of like come back to 2-1. Southampton going into this game, though, we've eulogised how well they're playing, but yet those inconsistencies, I think they've not won in 5 or 6 going into this game. But it's that ability to switch it on. Terry Gano has disappeared to be replaced by Peter Wells. He's my kind of like go-to Southampton goalkeeper. He's the first goal, in noticing a Southampton goalkeeper, it was Peter Wells eventually to be usurped by the often mentioned Ivan Katalinic. But yeah, Bertels, he's in there, and it's 2-1. From here you'd think, Southampton's form a bit patchy. Forest are waking up after a sluggish first half, understandable because they've been away in Europe. Yeah, I don't think anyone's really expecting kind of like the game to go so over the horizon away from Forest at that point in time, having got themselves a foothold back in the game.
No, too, when you expect Forest to sort of shake off the rigours of the European hangover and then second half really start to take it back to Southampton. But it all falls apart when Kenny Burns falls down on the halfway line. The great Kenny Burns slips to a rousing cheer from every centre forward in the land. I should imagine watching it. That night, Alan Ball collects this loose ball, chases forward and centres, and Phil Boyer, first time running onto it on the edge of the box, just knocks it past Peter Shilton. 3-1, game over. And there's Kenny Burns still picking himself up from a crater in around the centre circle.
Kenny Burns has not honoured Kenny Burns / Compost Corner on this particular Saturday. Yeah, Southampton running mark. There's a bit of racism in the air when Anderson's on the ball after 3-1, which is not great to hear at all. We're bigging Southampton up here as the hipsters, one of the hipsters' favourites. Supporters need to be kind of like knocking that on the head. Shannon cross for Bowyer, headed cleared off. It's cleared off the line. It could have been so many more. But then that fourth goal, Dave. What a team goal that is. We're talking about in terms. At the end of it, we will have to do a 1979-80 revisited goal of the season. we're going to have to do a goal of the season. Maybe throw it out onto kind of like social media so it can be done in terms of votes and see popular vote. Where do we get to? But this is an absolute fantastic goal.
Yeah, Graham Baker again. He's involved in it right at the start. He sort of sets Mick Shannon away on the right, and the crossing and Phil Boyer's finish to turn it past, one of the two England goalkeepers. He just does it with such nonchalance, like it is the archetypal the shelling peas kind of thing. The way he turns that ball into the back of the net for 4-1, and it sums up the kind of joyous nature of the afternoon. If you're a Southampton fan, I mean, it's been a glorious performance, and it's been crowned by this fabulous goal. That's absolutely. I mean, you would have to say that Forest are one of the 2 or 3 best defensive teams, perhaps not just in the country, but in Europe at that stage. And it's absolutely ripped them to shreds. They've got no answer to it at all. In the same way that Wolves didn't have an answer to that goal that we talked about in the last one or the one before that against Liverpool at Anfield when they were cut open as well. They've just got no answer to the pace and the precision that Southampton bring to this, and it's crowned by a glorious finish as well. So yes, when we put the link up, you've got to go and watch that because it's well worth it.
But yeah, that fourth goal for Southampton's absolute peach of a goal. Big match coverage. Brian Moore does his little interlude where he reads out the names and addresses of so many people in this episode. I was taken back, at least half a dozen people he just rattles out. What there was that there was a busy letters bag on this particular week. Questions over a Sunderland goal that should have been disallowed at home to Chelsea the previous weekend was open to much debate. And what was fantastic, one of my favourite parts of it was the southern-based Barnsley supporter who requested the goals from his game from YTV, and there's Romark again. Yeah, the Barnsley request and the Chelsea offside goal, the Sunderland offside goal.
Even down to the postcode, he's reading out everybody's name and address, so you can just sort of pop round, and if you don't agree that the Sunderland goal should have been disallowed, then you can go and have a chat, frankly, with Mrs. M Huggins of 74 the Larks, Cheadle Hume or whatever it was, and but then there's a Barnsley fan who's described himself as exiled in Bristol. He obviously didn't get the goals from the Sheffield Wednesday game, which we discussed earlier on, and so Brian Moore turns into Ask Aspel and shows him the goals. Which,
he does.
Public service.
I mean, to be fair to him, I mean, he's probably thought he's seen that result. He's heard on the radio on the final scores. He's thought, great, YTV have shown that. The big match will throw that into the mix of goals. Sat there on the Sunday afternoon, and did they show it? No, they didn't. So incensed, he's written a letter, gone down to the post box, but he's got a result there, Dave. That's a magnificent piece of people power.
Absolutely. I mean, these are the days when you couldn't just fire off a response on Twitter and think that you'd done your bit. No, you had to go and buy a stamp, get out to your post box, wait to see if Brian Moore had found your letter. But no, good on him, Brian Moore. There we are. Because let's face it, who doesn't want to see Peter Springett lumping the ball 75 yards forward again?
Absolute, truly magnificent. The final game that they showed brief highlights of, they went to Goodison Park, Granada's coverage, Gerald Sinstad on the microphone to show Middlesbrough's trip to Everton. The kick-off cameras have been to Goodison a couple of times already this season, and the footage has vanished. Because we're looking at some pretty poor football by the look of it. A goalless draw in Manchester. Elton Wellesby and everyone's kind of like thought, yeah, Goodison Park. Elton Wellesby, an Everton fan as well. Goodison Park, Manchester United. That's got to be gold on Sunday afternoon, and it's far from it, to the point that no one's been willing to put it on YouTube. Finally, we get to see a bit of Everton at Goodison Park in this one, but it's not for the reasons Everton would have wanted, Dave.
No, Middlesbrough are come out on top, and comfortably so, really, in the end. Craig Johnston, who Everton fans are never going to warm to at any stage of the next 10 years, is the thorn in the side. That is a good counter-attack. We said, it wasn't so much counter-attack in football perhaps in those days, but it is a great counter-attack from Borough. Mickey Burns puts Craig Johnston through. And no mistake. There's never any doubt, really, on Craig Johnston as he's advancing on goal. Just runs onto the ball and jabs it in for 1-0. And Everton don't really ever look like they're going to come back, do they?
They don't. George Wood really exposed there by his defenders in defending that the Manchester City of the visit of Liverpool would have been quite proud to call their own. But yeah, Craig Johnson terrorises them. Really does. Anyone who's taken a stroll across Stanley Park to keep an eye on matters that afternoon with Liverpool on the road has taken the name of Craig Johnston down with interest to kind of like, let's keep an eye on this lad. Second half, mad scramble. Everton the closest they come, they hit the post. There's this mad scramble in the Middlesbrough penalty area. The ball's it hits the post and it's cleared. I can remember kind of like at this point in time, say the 79-80 season, that genesis, and the Liverpool Echo dropping through the letterbox every day of an afternoon on a Monday, looking for kind of like the pictures and the match reports and stuff. I can just remember Trevor Ross just sticks in the mind massively. I seem to remember like a run of penalties in missing, which I'm sure we'll stumble across at some point on this Odyssey. And I can remember the young 7-year-old version of me having looked at all the Liverpool stuff, looking at the Everton stuff and thinking, Trevor Ross has missed a penalty again. I don't even know who Trevor Ross is, but it's kind of like Trevor Ross just became this epitome of misadventure of this Everton side, and it was reassuring. It was great to see this kind of like there's Trevor Ross fluffing a chance and thinking, no, my memory is actually holding up here. Trevor Ross was very much a figure of misfortune in this 1979-80 Everton side. Bob Latchford and Brian Kidd and Bob Latchford, who contrived to miss a double chance as well. It's not that Everton don't have the chances here, but there's some high comedy in not being able to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Kidd with a remarkable mullet striding across the turf. Great opportunity. And I think kind of commentators and us would say that perhaps he's seen Bob Latchford coming in at the back post. He hasn't really. He's trying to score. And he screwed his shot miles off target. And there's Bob Latchford launching himself into a sliding challenge on the ball, basically. He manages to put the wrong side of the post. And that sums up Everton's afternoon, really. Not firing on any cylinders whatsoever. Never mind on all of them. I mean, it's a really grim performance from Everton.
It very much is. Billy Wright hits the post later on in the second half. It's an intriguing effort, which kind of like bounces about 30 times before it actually.
It's like the dam
buster. It is very well, dam buster, and I can remember kind of like that. Like skimming a stone across the top of a water kind of effect. How many times can you get it to bounce? And this is what Billy Wright shot from a great distance, to refer to it. And it bounces and bounces and bounces and bounces and bounces and then hits the post. This after Craig Johnston's added the second. He's headed the second goal. No, it's a corner, it's a flick on. It's a goal. David Hodgson's somewhere involved in that as well, which will give Liverpool fans a lot of satisfaction as well for another future Liverpool player. But Everton beaten, and the big thing that stood out for me as well was that front and centre, right behind the goals, I think at both ends, advertisement hoarding for Alka-Seltzer seemed well placed in terms of what Everton fans are going through at this point in time, as they need a steady supply of the stuff.
Alka-Seltzer couldn't afford to advertise their football now, could they?
No, they couldn't. But yeah, Everton fans heading to the pub. Indigestion is going to be high on the agenda on the Sunday, I think. So yeah, do take your Alka-Seltzer before watching kick-off. And Elton Wellesby's going to be interesting to see how he does with presenting that programme as well, being a proud Evertonian. Yeah, a very even-handed Elton Wellesby, it has to say, as a footballing frontman. Wonderful Elton Wellesby. That all leaves us, and another reason to be grumpy for Everton fans is that Liverpool have won 4-1 at Brighton. Ray Kennedy on target, 2 more for Kenny Dalglish and David Johnson. It's the same 4 that scored a fortnight earlier. It's the 4 goals that went in at Main Road, Dave. Pretty impressive degree of symmetry apart from allowing Brighton to score one. Other results, Derby County have got a 2-0 win at Bristol City. Leeds United have crashed to a 3-0 defeat at Coventry City at Highfield Road. Ferguson with a couple. Ian Wallace has returned with a goal as well. Arsenal lose 1-0 at Crystal Palace. The team of the 80s have pulled out a result there despite no Jerry Francis, despite no Mike Flanagan. Infinitely less interesting hairstyles, but 2 points gained. It's Aston Villa and Ipswich have shared a goal draw at Portman Road. Wolves are 1-0 winners at Stoke. It's a 2-0 win for Spurs at home to Bolton. Yorath and a Hoddle penalty. And Dave, again, the cameras aren't at the Hawthorns, but you've won. It's goals for Wiley and Robson again. Martin Peters on target for Norwich City. 2 points there, Dave. You are moving up towards mid-table. You're moving in the right direction. Your home form is holding steady. You just need to start picking up a few more points away from home. Any other particular results that piqued your interest there across the First Division?
Good result for the Wolves at Stoke, but that Crystal Palace one is the one, isn't it? I mean, at this point, they are still
motoring. What I would say is that's Wolves' fourth win on their travels. It's either win or lose. It's 8 games away from home so far, 4 wins, 4 defeats. But that's what 8 points on their travels. No one has won more on their travels in the First Division so far this season. Not even Liverpool. Liverpool and Arsenal are the closest with 3.
But Palace Arsenal, I mean, they were sort of prolonging that spell towards the top end of the division, weren't they? Crystal Palace. I mean, you kind of forget now because obviously things fell away fairly rapidly after that. But I mean, there was genuinely a point in time where it did look as though they were going to come on and be not the Liverpool of the South, as Malcolm Allison was suggesting, but they were going to become a force. They were going to become a top 6 team on a regular basis with that really young side that they've got.
They have. I mean, Malcolm Allison had said he felt that Palace would finish in the top 4, and at this point in time, the 4th. We are pretty much 15 games in for the vast majority. Liverpool have that game in hand. There's also a game in hand for Leeds somewhere along the line there that they've missed out against Brighton. So apart from that, everyone's on 15 games. So yeah, we are kind of like through the 1/3 barrier of the season, and Palace are holding firm in 4th place. So yeah, we've Manchester United top of the table on 20. Liverpool just behind them, breathing down the net, 19 points to Manchester United's 20 with a game in hand. Forest is still on 19 despite their defeat at the Dell. Crystal Palace also on 19, so just 1 point split in the top 4. Spurs, after that sluggish start for Spurs, Dave, they're up to 5th now. 18 points, only 2 off the lead themselves. A bit like Forest, they've only won once on the travels though. Very difficult to play at White Hart Lane, but they need a few more wins away from home. Wolves are 6th on 17, and then it's Norwich, Arsenal, Middlesbrough all on 16. Dave, West Brom are up to 15 points. You are moving the right direction. You're behind Southampton on goal average. Villa and Coventry, Man City all on 15 as well. It's Bristol City on 14, Stoke 13, Everton and Leeds along with Derby on 12, and then into the bottom 3. Ipswich are on 10, alarmingly, still in the bottom 3. It's Bolton on 9, Brighton on 7, appearing doomed. They are already 5 points adrift of safety, Dave. Worrying times for Brighton.
Absolutely. They look like they've got the curse of the team that comes up, going straight back down. They look like they're out of their depth in the First Division. No hope for them already, I would say.
It's not looking good. They're looking nailed on.
Ipswich, what the hell's going on at Ipswich?
Ipswich, yeah. It's all going wrong at Ipswich at the minute. Out of Europe. I think they're out of the League Cup. Bottom 3. So much expected from them at the start of the season, but Tottenham, have shown the path, Dave, that a sluggish start, a sluggish position can be remedied relatively quickly.
It'll all come right for Bobby Robson in the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm positive of it. Dave, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure
for joining us for this one. We move into the further into November for subsection module 1.09 and its myriad of paragraphs. Please do join us again. Subscribe. Join us for the more rambling content. There's so much to embrace there as well. It's the podcast where it's always the 1980s. Thank you and goodbye.